Gotta get ready to go to mass, figure out what I'm gonna wear, etc. Sorry, my nose. You guys know me, I have a perpetual runny nose. I don't know why. So this last week, has been very interesting, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the Gina Carano lawsuit, how it affects Lucasfilm, how it affects Disney, and what I think is going to happen. First off, does it necessarily hurt Bob Iger? Not really. All right. If I've got the documents right here, I downloaded everything. If what is being alleged to be in the evidence of that's going to be presented is real, Kennedy's got a lot to worry about. They're actually, the entire cabal of her weirdos have got a lot to worry about, because Gina, after going back through some things that I saved, which I'd be more than happy to share with her, I have to say that, hey, Cross. Well, I'll tell you a story at the end of this if you remind me about a Wikipedia post. Okay. If this stuff fired Gina Carano hashtag and all the harassment made by sock puppet accounts is to be believed, I think it did come in from inside Lucasfilm. You could go back to the Ben Shapiro interview. You could go back and to even before all this stuff was happening. And, even if you deleted your account and you're going to pretend like you had nothing to do with it, Elon Musk can go and have his people pull your tweets out and connect it to whoever owned that account. And the way people are behaving from Lucasfilm, there's a meltdown going, obviously, about this. There will be people who probably will be subpoenaed to testify. Okay. So let's go through, page 20. This is 27. I'm going to read it right here. Right here. Okay. Lucasfilm Creative and was directly targeting Carano, defaming her of being a bigoted actress. Accordingly, Carano did not donate. Now they're talking about that GoFundMe account that was set up to support poor trans people. I think somebody thought it might have been somebody in the story group, but as we get more into this, it's going to be somebody else. Carano brought this to Lucasfilm's attention, who denied the GoFundMe account was established by any Lucasfilm employee. Shortly thereafter, the account was changed to call Carano ignorant, and the identity of the organizer was changed to no longer identify a Lucasfilm employee. To Carano's knowledge, no employee was disciplined for their public harassment of Carano. Let's go back to this one. Okay, so we'll go, this is what we're going to talk about. Defendants engaged in harassment of their own. 75. However, like her online abusers, defendants were not satisfied. They subjected Carano to long phone calls, demanding an explanation and criticizing her for not embracing what some see as mandatory solidarity with the vocal movement of the transgender activist community. This is me. Back to them, if I were her. Even when she expressed that the defendant's demands were excessive and asked for some time away from the constant meetings, defendants refused, demanding she continue with her re-education program. All right, what was Kennedy running there? Fucking Maoist labor camps? Defendants even required Carano to meet with the representatives of GLAAD, the Gay and Lesbian Alliance, Against Discrimination, national organization that promotes LGBTQ plus bleh, acceptance. All right, this is me accepting you. You're here. Don't give a shit where you stick your dick. Whatever. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know about it. It's not my business. Keep it to yourself. I got stories about that too. That stuff like that happened to me, but I shut it down. Carano had a very positive discussion with two of their representatives during a 90-minute Zoom meeting, even reviewing several documentaries they asked her to watch. I'm not gonna watch this shit. Fuck off. Upon information and belief, the representatives of GLAAD with whom she spoke provided positive feedback to defendants from their discussion. Even so, defendants continued to demand a public apology, finding the above social media statements insufficient. Defendants went so far as to try to convince Carano's publicist to force Carano to issue a statement admitting to mocking or insulting an entire group of people, which Gina never did. After she refused to issue the statement, defendants demanded and defendants rejected Carano's proposed alternate statement. Defendants increased their harassment of Carano. As a sign of good faith, Carano went to donate to a GoFundMe page, allegedly set up to support the transgender community. When she opened the link, she read that it was supposedly created by Lucasfilm Creative and was directly targeting Carano, defaming her of being a bigoted actress. Accordingly, Carano did not donate. Now, well, first off, I never would have. I got on the phone with Jon Favreau and said they're doing this, and this. I am not coming back. Fuck this shit. All right, and that's it. Never see me again. Okay, go on to do another show. All right, hire another actress to play Cara Dune. All right, I mean, and I would have gone public with this crap. All right. Defendants nevertheless communicated to Carano's publicist they were going to require Carano participate in a Zoom call with Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy and 45 employees that are part of the the LGBTQ plus community, going so far as to say that her willingness to endure such harassment and humiliation was a litmus test for her. The fact of the matter that Kathleen's mentioned here is huge. All right, so you got to ask yourself, online harassment, mostly by sock puppet accounts and bots. Who is running that? All right, I basically saw sock puppets show up here on my last live, but thanks for the about 1,400 views. I appreciate that. You dumbasses. And I believe Gina when she said it all came out from, inside Lucasfilm. All right, but let's go on. All right. Publicist was encouraged to explain that the group was a friendly group that want Gina to succeed, even though several had contributed to the anti-Carano GoFundMe account, including filmmaker Leslie Headland. Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant. Okay. This is where the rubber's going to meet the road. But now let's talk about where this goes. All right. So, all right. Who is scheduled to produce a Star Wars production? We know what that is, whatever it is. Purpose was clear. Carano had to grow and learn, and defendants wanted to know where her mindset is currently with regard to the controversy over pronouns. If we are to the point where you literally have to kowtow to someone who should be on a Thorazine drip and who's freaking out about a fucking bio on Twitter X, to the point where they want to send you to a camp and re-education, then the world has gone absolutely apeshit crazy. All right. There's no wonder why there's backlash. And when they have people like the people that run Gays Against Groomers screaming back at them saying, you're going to cause a backlash, and they blithely act like they don't know or they don't care. Okay. This is why they're never going to get what they want. Because people like you and me who are tolerant, I mean, I don't give a shit. Again, I don't care. All right. I have my own ideas. I don't, well, and that's true, Kyle. That's true too. But, all right, let me finish this. All right. Until then, they were not going to allow her to speak to the media or include her in any promotions. Carano declined to be subjected to a Zoom call with 45 degenerates and their creepy, icky leader, but did offer to take 5 or 6 to dinner so they could talk face to face. Defendants refused the offer. Why? Because when you're face to face with someone, your whole demeanor changes, which is why they can sit there behind their fake accounts, Matt Martin and whomever else, and harass and mock this woman. But you ever seen Matt Martin, by the way? He's this big. Okay. But face to face, if you pulled that shit with Gina, she's a mixed martial arts champion. Think about it. Okay. All right. Given defendants' ongoing harassment, Carano let defendants know that perhaps she needed to get legal counsel to help resolve the issue. Therefore, the defendants changed their course and decided Carano to take media training. Accordingly, by September 25th, 2020, defendants' harassment of Carano was in full swing, with the launch of season 2 of The Mandalorian right around the corner. So I'm gonna look for some of these. So we've got Cliff Story fella, Pennsylvania, Washington staff, whatever that means, posting. I can't read that. This. Okay, let's find another one. Here's another one. Okay, here's this one. All right, let's look at this. All right, well, it's just, the tweets are just, so here's the tweet that Kathy Kennedy convinced everybody on the planet was anti-Semitic. They happen to be Jews. The people chasing that woman down the street could be Ukrainians. They could be Poles. They could be Belarusians. They could be Germans. They could be Austrians. They could be Hungarians, whatever. Okay. The point is, she was making a historical analogy. This could be Armenia, Christian Armenians being herded up by the Turks. Okay. This could be Russians herding up Ukrainians. I mean, all right. It's historical analogy. Hell, these could be Maoist Chinese Red Guard running around committing the Cultural Revolution atrocities. What was it? Just a minute. 60 million people died? Were killed? Hold it. Hold that thought. I do not understand why that happens. All right, I think we're gonna have to get a new alarm system because ADT just sucks. That thing likes to go off for no reason at all now. But it could be, the Chinese Cultural Revolution. Again, historical analogy. It's not anti-Semitic. Now, Ben Shapiro, the white knight, had to say something shitty about her posting that because I think that Ben lost people in the Holocaust, and he's one of these people that gets immediately triggered, just like any of them, and that's fine. But you've also got to understand historical analogy. If you've read anything by Elie Wiesel, who wrote about Auschwitz, he was a victim. If you've read anything that he wrote, he didn't just talk about being a Jew, being caught up in that insanity. Okay, he basically was warning the world that any group, you get a mob together and all thought and rationality just kind of disappears. That's what happened in Germany. You get any group who starts picking on a minority, they get into a mob mentality. There you go. The Russians would do their pogroms on Jews. Okay. You've got all kinds of things all through history. All right. If you look at the history of anti-Semitism in Europe, people like to say, well, it started then. Actually, no, it started with the Romans. It started in what? 64 AD, when the first diaspora occurred, when the Jewish people that lived in Palestine at the time, and Palestina is what the Romans called it. Okay, that's a Roman term for what is known as also the Levant. They herded up all the Jews. They destroyed the temple, herded up all the Jews, and moved them to Europe. That's how they got to be in Europe. Then there was another diaspora, and that was after there was a Jewish rebellion, and you guys have heard of Masada. It's that fortress on top of like a mountain. And it was like the last remnant of the Zealots. And they fought the Romans. The Romans held siege to it. And I think all the people that were hiding up there killed themselves. The Romans walked in and everybody was dead. Okay, they were not going to go down. They were not going to be removed. Okay, but that's how the Jewish people ended up in Europe. They never assimilated. They had their own culture. They had their own, synagogues, and, they were part of the economy, but they weren't. Okay. You get, through a lot of things, and they were heavy duty into the arts. Gustav Mahler, novelists, writers, poets, Heine, I believe, and all of these people that have contributed huge amounts to the culture of Germany, France, Austria, to the point where the Viennese School of Art had quite a few influential Jewish people on the board, the committee, and they were seen as too successful in the opinion of people who were feeling insecure about their economic role in life. Okay, and you start looking at it, and there was a rabble rouser, and a Georg von Schernau, I think his name was. I'd have to look it up. I'm not gonna do that right now. Who wrote an anti-Semitic pamphlet all over Vienna. You think the Germans were bad? Go study what was going on in Vienna before World War I. And those pamphlets were written out, sent out, people would get them. And there was a little rat postcard painter who lived in flop houses and would paint these terrible paintings for pennies so he could eat, who has tried to enter the Viennese School of Art twice and was no, because when you look at his paintings, they're like, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. And you got to remember that some of the people on that board were some of the greatest, painters in the world. Okay. The Viennese secessionist movement. I will do this because I need to. And they would not, Gustav Klimt, that was him. His paintings are just amazing. Like, I think this is one of the paintings at the Belvedere Palace, which is one of the Habsburg's palaces that sort of turned into like a national thing, and they have a lot of the art that was painted during this time. That's called Palace Athena. His use of gold, metal, is just amazing. But he was on the board. Okay, he was on that board. And he would not, he was looking at these bullshit paintings and going, okay, so who was that postcard painter who would read those awful anti-Semitic pamphlets written by the Knight of Rosenau? The von Schorner called himself that. Who was that guy? Who would go and stand in the corner panting over Wagnerian operas? Adolf Hitler. That's who it was. Okay. So he's probably grew up with it. His father probably raged against Jews all the time. He leaves Linz, Austria. He goes to Vienna, is rejected twice by this cabal of what he thinks are Jews. And it's because he's not talented. And he runs away from Austria because he's about to get drafted into the Austro-Hungarian army. He ends up in Germany, and when World War I starts, he joins the German army. Okay, that's how that shit started with him. And when you look at like the anti-Semitism after the war, it's just a boiling up of the madness that was going on in Italy, in France. I mean, you could go down and find a list of violent things that went on against the small Jewish population. I mean, there is still a Jewish ghetto in Rome, okay? And a lot of people live there. One of the girls murdered on October 6th, and what happened to her is just, it is so horrifying, I can't even. 17 years old, Jewish girl from Germany. She's at that concert. I'm not going to get into it. To me, when you look at all this violence, and you look at that tweet, or that Instagram message, first off, you can understand why people who are Jewish would be upset. All right, you can understand it. But you can also understand why that anger can misconstrue what she was trying to say. Okay? Which is what they did. Which is Kennedy. she knew it. I mean, look, she probably thinks in the quiet of her squirrel-like mind that she wrote and directed and produced Schindler's List all by herself. Okay, Kathy, if we're gonna go with that, you're gonna pretend that fine. Okay. But so she uses the anti-Semitic label dog whistle to get everybody in Hollywood freaked out. It wasn't anti-Semitic at all. Okay. It is vastly different than the crap you see going on now on campuses, which is anti-Semitic, victimizing Jewish students to the point where people like with a lot of money are pulling their money out of Harvard with good reason. Okay, they stop it. Okay, but Gina wasn't being anti-Semitic, but that moment got Gina in trouble. I mean, let's read what she said. Okay. And Gina Carano, the Jews were beaten in the streets not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even children. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where, I'm going to say SS, Gestapo, I did a paper on a police regiment from a town in Germany that got dragged into this unit of soldiers that would come in after the Wehrmacht, round up all of the Jews and kill them. All right. The government, all right, thousands of Jews. The government first made their own neighbors hate them for simply being Jews. Their neighbors already hated them. Okay. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? It's not. It's not. I really fail to understand how that is misconstrued. You want to take care of this one, Cross, or should I? I think I am. So anyway, so that's where we're at. Now, let's go to the last document. Let's go, come on. Okay. Is it? I gotta look at this. Okay, 47. And a lot of the suits, I mean, she brings up Mark Hamill, and he's just, I mean, he's lost his mind. She brings up Pedro Pascal, who I think John Favreau should have had a talk with him and said, shut the fuck up. Okay, just shut the fuck up. I think, because to me, all of them should have shut the fuck up. All right. First off, you can say what you want, but you're also going to be responsible for it. Gina, responsible for it. These guys that were torturing her and harassing her absolutely have no responsibility at all for what they do. Okay. And if you have any experience with any of these people, you know that. It's always somebody, watch this person cross. It's always somebody being faux offended and saying that their fifis are hurt. They feel unsafe because, they don't have pronouns in their Twitter bio or some bullshit like that. And you kind of sit there and you look at what was going on, and it's schoolyard bullshit. And it gets to the point where you're like, okay, what's going on here? And this is what I think is going to happen. Because I think there's a nuclear bomb of a bunch of emails that would be royally embarrassing for Kennedy, that have something to do with Leslie Headland too, by the way, because she's definitely mentioned in that GoFundMe bullshit. I think they're going to end up probably settling with Gina. Really, all she wants is her job back and $75,000. That's it. She comes from money. She don't need the money. All right. There you go. Okay. And the reason why I think is because the emails are damaging to the point where you're kind of looking at the people that are part of this. Kennedy, her cabal, certain members of the story group. All right. So how did this happen? I mean, we've talked about this. I mean, Kennedy meets Gina and realizes that Gina is everything that she'll never be. Because, you know, Kathy didn't make Raiders of the Lost Ark. Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, and a bunch of really great filmmakers made Raiders of the Lost Ark. She didn't make Schindler's List. She was part of it, but she didn't make it. She didn't make the first Jurassic Park. Okay. You know, nothing that she's done in her life has made her look exceptional off on her own. If you look at the record at Lucasfilm, and a lot of these people who are defending her and are attacking Gina would say, well, those movies made $4 billion. No, they didn't. You're talking about gross box office, which in the end is not a real number, right? The movies can pull in that amount together, right? But how much do they all cost to make? You think they're free? You think reshoots are free? You think going to ABC, NBC, and CBS, and, you know, Twitter, and, okay, that's all right, and Twitter and other places, oh, she would, you know, it's, look, that's why I call it Harry High School bullshit, and Kathy Kennedy is a mean girl. That's all this is about. It has nothing to do with any of the things they were calling Gina out for. It doesn't. And I think we're to the point, and I told you guys February was going to be a huge month, that we're probably going to see movement as far as leadership goes at Lucasfilm, because look, if what we suspect is what we suspect, then not only did that stuff occur from inside Lucasfilm, the harassment on Twitter, Instagram, and other places, you know, the story group, sock puppet accounts, and the rest of this shit, okay, started inside there. It was blessed by the boss herself, because she could not stand to see a woman who actually was a badass all on her own. Okay, she couldn't. I mean, you know, I would think the quarterback of her high school football team, that's so weird, back in the 60s? Really? Would have a little more fierceness about her, but, you know, it's all, you know, backstabbing bullshit, like the Oh, yeah. I mean, you look at opportunity lost. You look at, you know, why don't we just hire, Steven Spielberg's accountant's son to play Han Solo? What? He's this big. He looks like a gremlin. Okay, why? Um, and it was a favor. And, now Spielberg won't talk to her anymore. And, there we go. Que sera, sera. Anyway, so let's talk about Musk. So all right, 2 weeks ago, Disney stocks were at like $90, between 90 and $94. Okay, fine. Um, no, he doesn't look like Harrison. He looks like a gremlin. I mean, you could put pictures of them in the same like pose, and you'd be like, "Hey, Mike." All right, so let's go back. So the stock is between $90 and $94 2 weeks ago. 2 days ago it was at 110. That's a huge difference, and it went up like the day after the earnings report. And it's not because the earnings report was all that good. I mean, it was fine, but I'm going, are we really thinking this is that great? Okay, well, all right, whatever. Whatever you want. No, it wouldn't have, because that whole movie was designed to downgrade and degrade the character. All right. Amelia Clark is just, I can't even. I mean, when you've got Bria Theron, who was Han's first love in the trilogy, and you've come up with this scrawny, weird-looking little toad. Give me a break. Anyway, back to stock. So yesterday the stock went down to like 108.39, but still, who's buying the stock? Because somebody with deep pockets decided to buy a lot. Now, Nelson Peltz could be buying more. Okay, but I'm going to say this. Elon Musk, even if he's buying stocks now, won't be able to vote in April because there's a time limit. Like, you have to buy the stocks, and on this day of this month, then you can't vote for the board. But what I think, after seeing him canoodling and running around with Peltz, they're hanging out, um, and he said, thinking about companies to acquire. I don't know if it's a good idea to buy Disney, but if you're part of a cabal to oust the board and, hostile takeover so it can actually get back to where it used to be, I'm all for it. And the thing about it is, Elon is a really good ally for Peltz and Rusulo and Perlmutter. All right. So we'll see where this is going. And we'll figure it out. But I do think that Elon is thinking seriously about, and if he's not already doing it, being part of the cabal that takes Disney away from these people. It just makes sense to me. But let's go back to the Gina thing. So this is what I think is going to happen. I think they'll probably settle out of court, and Gina will get her job back. And if that happens, you can expect to see a lot of stuff going on, a lot of announcements, etc. So it's going to be very interesting to me going forward. And we're going to see where it goes. It's just going to be, you know, interesting. And I really think that this lawsuit is a corner that needed to be, because here's the deal. If it goes to court, everything becomes public record, becomes government record. Well, I tell you, that's why I think they'll settle out of court. But the whole idea of getting this to court is to get Kennedy to leave. All right. Now, I still would take those emails and make them public. And the reason is, I think people need to know what was really going on. And there are other people involved that need to be dragged out into the public eye and to be asked very bluntly what the hell was going, what were you doing? You know, and that, you know, really is the thing. And look, again, like I said, the people that were doing all that stuff to Gina really don't realize that if it goes to court, they may have to testify. All right, they may have to face her lawyers. And it's a high-priced Washington, D.C. law firm. I know exactly who they are. I know exactly who the lawyers are. And if they go that far, if they have to be deposed by those guys, it's going to be a very sad day for them. Okay? It really, really is. It's going to be very, very, and look, my thing is, you could have kept your mouth shut. You could have left her alone. You know, you could have left her, let her do what she wanted to do, and left it at that. Act like Americans. You know, agree to disagree. But no, we had to act like a bunch of 5-year-olds, unprofessional, 15-year-old teenage girls trying to erase a face on the yearbook because they hate this girl now. It's, 1980s Mean Girls. Harass, bother, bully, etc., and say things to that woman they would never say to her face, because if they did, I don't know what would have happened, but it wouldn't have been nice, and it wouldn't have been pretty. Anyway, look, I gotta go. I gotta leave at 3, and I've got some straightening out to do in the kitchen. So you guys have a good evening and a good Saturday, and I'll see y'all later. See you around the galaxy. Oh, that's when you want to get onto the YouTube channel to watch it. I mean, and live stream it and laugh your ass off. Okay. Steph, signing out. I'll see you around the galaxy.